Hey guys, what's up? It's Stacking Chairs, the youth ministry podcast all about serving in youth ministry, whether it be youth group or youth camp, whatever God has you serving in, that's what we're talking about. I'm one of your hosts, Josh Paul Hamus. I'm joined by my fellow host and good friend,
Kyle Gray. Hey, Josh, we are going to jump right into this thing. No little like pithy banter at the start because we have two all-star guests.
Whoa.
We literally had to set up the extended table.
I've never seen you so focused, Kyle.
I'm so excited.
Why don't you introduce our guest then?
This is my good friend, Zack Jernigan.
How's it going?
This is my also good friend, Josiah Brondyke.
I felt like the pause.
Better
I feel
friend.
like we're not quite.
Because I was like, do I go into like our
Where do you begin?
Our complicated
our
relationship.
lore?
Yeah, we have lore.
We do.
It's real.
We
Let's
do.
not explain that at any point in the episode.
No. But if you're a fan of the show, if you're a stacker, you already know the lore. So no need.
Well, they wouldn't know the
A
connection
little
to
bit.
the lore.
No, I knew the
How
lore
would they
while
know?
listening as a stacker. He's
Well,
alluded to some things.
clearly, somebody doesn't listen to the episode.
Not a stacker.
Are you saying I'm not a stacker?
No.
Are you
I,
saying
internet,
Do you even know how to stack chairs?
I
I know how to
stack
stack chairs.
That's
in
how
real
you get a
life.
wife.
Not a
In
stacker.
real life. Yeah.
That is not a stacker.
When you
What?
carry them 6 at a time.
That's how you
Yeah,
impress the
but
ladies
our
at the youth
chairs,
group.
our chairs at our church, like they don't even really work like that. You can't put them under your arms.
Yes, you
You're
can.
trying to like
Clearly,
sabotage
you're not
people.
trying hard enough.
Okay, you're right. You're right.
So down in your middle school room,
Mhm.
they used to stack them like off of the walls. Like, do they still do that?
No.
And it was like, just put them behind the curtains. You literally have curtains right there.
No, we still
Hide
put
Oh,
them on the wall.
But then we tore down the curtains
But-
so that you couldn't hide more stuff behind them. Yeah,
this
I got a
guy's
little
lo-
aggressive.
He comes
about
down
the
to hall
clutter.
one. He's like, clean this place
Where are
up.
you supposed to go back and
Just
have a
don't
serious
have
conversation
garbage.
before the service starts?
You're not supposed to have that conversation behind a ghetto curtain.
A ghetto curtain.
We have a bunch of classrooms you can go inside up with the door
See
properly
people's
propped
feet
open.
standing
Yeah, yeah.
there.
No, I told you.
Hey, so
That's exactly what
so
happens
Zack
every
and
week.
Josiah served together at Idlewild Church.
Yep.
Do you say Idlewild Baptist Church?
I say it a lot about this.
Idlewild Baptist Church.
I don't say the Baptist part as loud as Zach,
Baptiste.
but I
Do
say
you
all
not
three.
say exciting Idlewild Baptist
I
Church?
do
not
not
exciting
say
anymore.
exciting.
It's not exciting anymore.
What?
There's zero excitement. No, we actually dropped it from the name
So-
officially, but it's still on exciting Idlewild Boulevard. That's why we dropped it because we can't say it.
Excite White.
So yes, it is still on exciting
Excite
Idlewild
Wild.
Boulevard.
So hey,
Yeah, we're there.
tell us a little
We are
about
there.
yourselves. Tell us how you met. Tell us how your powers are combined.
So we met because Josiah was my DC at the Word of Life Bible
Please don't-
Institute. in
What's a
Florida.
DC?
What's a DC?
I mean, you know what a DC is.
yeah, but
No,
the,
but
but
it's
the
a
listeners
discipleship
don't.
coordinator. Like my discipleship was so
Next thing-
uncoordinated.
He's going to say the BI.
Yeah.
So
So
yeah, I speak in only acronyms. No, my discipleship was really, really uncoordinated. And then I met Josiah Brondyke, my discipleship coordinator.
Oh, okay.
No, he was like
Your
the RA to the
DCJB.
RAs. Yeah.
Yeah.
He was like, what does an RA actually stand for?
resident
assistant.
advisor.
I
Assistant,
don't know.
advising
I don't know.
assistant.
Prayer beats
That
everything.
one's more
I
common
was that.
across
I wasn't
college
even one of
campuses,
those. I wasn't even. How did I get into your good graces?
I just liked you. But no,
I like you
Hey,
too.
Jesus took pity on a lot
Yeah.
of people.
Zach and I are both alumni of the Word of Life Bible Institute.
Hey!
That's where we met.
And that's the only reason why we have him on the show today. ladies.
Exactly.
Mhm. You got to pay your dues, guys.
but yeah,
you
we
want
met-
to make it here? You want to sit in this seat? You
So
got to pay your dues.
you owed Josiah,
Mhm.
and years later, he wanted a position, and he came to you and he said, "Hey, you owe me. You're only here today because of my ministry."
Yeah, well, there was that, but also we had another middle school pastor that I was desperate to get rid of. I was doing anything I could
Don't
do.
talk about Andrew Evans.
I
He
was
still
searching
serves
high
there.
and low to say, I got to get rid of this
We've
guy.
got to explain the
Yeah,
lore
yeah,
at this
yeah,
point.
At this point, yeah. I was gonna say.
So- Who's Kyle?
So this is the church that I was the interim youth pastor for, and then Josiah and I do-si-doed.
For over
And
1 year.
You contacted me at a trampoline park, and you were like, "Hey, you should apply for this thing."
You were
And I was
both at the
like,
trampoline
no.
park?
We
Only
were
one
both.
of you was
Neither
Well,
one of us were
technically,
jumping.
My voice was there.
This is- oh, were we on the phone? I thought you were there in
I don't
person.
remember.
I think we bumped into each other in person at a trampoline park.
Was it at Reverb?
No, it was just
Rando?
just rando trampoline park.
Calrissian.
I remember it being in person. Maybe it was a cell phone call, but you were like, "I think you should, I think maybe apply for this." And I was like, "Nah." And then Lord just moved some other things, and about a year later, I was like, And then I heard that they
will.
hired this guy, and I was like, they
The
snagged
standards.
Zack
Wait.
Jernigan.
Did I reach out to you before?
Yeah.
Zacharias
Mm-hmm.
was in there?
I think so.
Yeah.
Wow.
And
This is all your fault.
Yeah, and so I think the world of this guy. I think the world of this guy. And when I heard that they had hired Pastor Zack,
If
I
you're
was
listening, he pointed at me and then
exactly.
Zach. He did not point at Josh.
It's not order.
I also think a lot of Josh. I just got his number, so we're now official. No, but it's been really cool. Zack's been coming up on 2 years at Idlewild, and I'm just over a year.
Just over 2 years.
You're just over?
Yeah, just
I'm
over
sorry.
2 years.
My
Yeah.
apologies.
I say I'm in my 3rd year because
I
that
would
sounds
agree.
like a
It
longer
sounds-
period of
yeah,
time
yeah.
than
I
I've
would
been
agree.
here for 2 full years
Yeah.
and a little change. Yeah, I'm in my 3rd year.
But how
I like
many-
not
we
to-
start
not
saying
to
that
brag.
instead.
How
Yeah.
many? How long you been doing student ministry stuff?
2014. As soon as I left Word of Life, I got a internship at a church.
2014.
And I was like,
years.
can I come and work for free? And they were like, we'll see. And then I stuck around long enough until they paid me. And then I got to be the youth pastor there. And then I came to Idlewild.
So
That's
when-
exactly
when-
how I stayed at Word of Life.
yeah,
when
yeah.
Zack was
Now,
being-
You just
I believe
Just
Proverbs says, let another man praise you. However, I will say, shortly after I preached at Zach's church, he left.
no,
tough.
no. It was like 5 years. No, 4 years.
3.
Is that a praise?
3.
They were like, you brought that guy in?
No, yeah. I had to run out of there real quick after you came. No, I'm joking. No, it was like 2019. You were like one of the first people that I brought in as a guest speaker when I
Really?
became youth pastor. Yeah.
Wow.
So
For the bonfire.
when Zack was doing
Mm-hmm.
his last youth pastorate, I was like, he started to share some stuff online, and occasionally my wife and I would like have out our phones and we'd be like, "God, he's saying the things out loud with words," and so we were proud of him,
You said
and
the quiet part out loud.
he said the quiet. He says the
Yeah,
quiet
just take
part
note.
out
That
loud.
I'm not at that church anymore. That had nothing to do with the squares that I was posting online. I don't think.
But just really respect his philosophy of ministry, and so I was like, yeah, I think I could work under Zack, and so we've been there. I've been in there just over a year now. I've been doing ministry stuff kind of since the Bible Institute, 2009. I was at another church prior to this one for 7-8 years, as their student pastor, and now I'm the middle school pastor.
6 or 7? It was 6 or
I
7.
don't know, man.
6,
Round up.
7.
Don't.
Six,
I knew that was coming. I knew
seven.
that was
Something
coming.
like that.
I was sharing the gospel
So-
and trying to talk about the scales, and I
Oh,
did this,
no.
and everyone in the audience was like,
Ooh,
"Yeah," and I was like, "I
six.
can't do this
So
anymore."
today I preached the gospel at an event, and before I walked down, Gavin Andrews says, "Don't say 6, 7," or no, Brady, whatever. Said, "Don't say 6, 7." And I'm like, and I said, I wasn't planning on, but now
Now
it's
it's in
in
my
my
head.
head.
Yeah. No, you.
So
can't
do
help
you
it.
guys play the fit the word in game?
I've done it before.
No, I don't know what
You,
this is,
you
but
get
I love
given
games.
a random
Like right
word.
before you get up to preach, you have to say.
Oh
the
no,
word
100% no.
flamingos.
I wouldn't be able to handle
100%
that.
no?
Yeah, no, I wouldn't do that.
Yeah, it's also disrespectful.
Yeah, praise God.
Yeah.
I agree with Josh.
I mean, if you really value the word
Okay,
of God,
hold on. I only do it before
You
somebody gets up
sicko.
for prayer. That's
where?
only when they're going to talk to the Almighty
Yeah.
Creator God of
Oh,
the universe.
yeah.
Yeah, nothing important.
Okay, so Zack and Josiah work together at Idlewild, and they are the youth team. Zack, you are in
This is our
charge
moment.
of
There we go. Good.
like, because listen, every church, it's pretty much the book of Judges. Everybody does what was right in their own heart. Okay.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
you are in charge of both ministries, or is there
I-
somebody over you?
I
or-
keep saying this. If it's ever not a good way to say it, and you're like, stop saying that, tell me. I usually say, if something goes well in middle school, it was Josiah's idea. It was his fault. If something goes bad in middle school, it was my fault. So
I
you
think
know,
I have asked him to stop saying that. Zack is my boss. He's the student pastor. I'm the middle school pastor. And we have a boss as well, our next gen pastor. Our church kind of big and
We
complicated.
got lots of bosses.
The reason why I asked is because when I first showed up, there was another guy, fantastic guy, Andrew Evans, who was the previous middle school youth pastor, then stepped into the overarching role while he was also still the high school pastor.
Yeah,
and
he was holding on to
he would
both
not
reins.
he would not sit there and say, "Oh, I do," but he would say, I'd hear him talk very, very rarely of, "Well, I'm the student minister, but also the high school pastor."
Yeah, but that takes too long to say. So that's in a technical sense, I think I'm the student pastor and high school pastor, but that takes so long to say.
So you're just the high school pastor.
I say that he's a student
It
pastor.
depends. I say student pastor. I say middle. No, I don't. I never say middle.
Every
school pastor.
now
I
and
say
then-
high school pastor.
I fall apart.
I every now and then I say that I'm the student pastor too, because I am a student
Well,
pastor.
you are a
which-
pastor to students,
right? But
Yeah.
It's
yeah.
convoluted and little confusing.
we
I
were
think
also-
I
just
focus
like
on
to keep
middle
people on their
school.
toes.
He
Yeah.
focuses on high school.
Also,
So-
contextually, I think it's worth adding the size of the church as well, because I think people don't know your church
Yeah,
or
yeah.
anything about it. So I think add that in as well, because I think people are thinking like you have
Let
a
us know
pastor
how
for middle
important
school and
you
a
are.
pastor for.
So
Do you have somebody who could herald like with a trumpet? Like
Well, he does
Uncomfortable.
have sound buttons.
I do.
Was that
You don't know what that one
I don't
even
know.
does. We're
it's okay.
recording a new thing on the board. So our church is coming up on almost 100 years of existence.
Mhm.
It's in the greater Tampa Bay area and has had really faithful ministers over the years. And sometime in the last 30 or so years, it got very large. It is certainly categorized
blew up.
as
Yep.
mega. And really faithful man, Ken Witten, was there for years, built the church greatly. He has since moved on, not to be with the Lord, but to be with the Southern
He's
Baptist.
still with us. Yeah.
North American Mission
He's
Board.
up there with the Southern Baptist Convention.
As of the recording of this episode.
You have to say
Calm
that.
down.
His kids are in
You
my
have to
youth.
say
His
that.
grandkids are in my youth group. We're not gonna.
It
We're not
could
gonna
take
leave
like
that.
15 years to edit this episode.
It could. It could. Yeah. Ken Witten's in perfect health.
Phenomenal. He just spoke
he's a great guy.
last year for our Young Adults Weekend.
He's awesome.
He's great.
And so we
He's
have
really
like
great.
this great.
By the way, Ken, always available.
Anytime you want to be on the podcast, you should come. But yeah, we have this great legacy of faithful pastors, and it's brought us to a point where we've transitioned to another senior pastor. Pastor Edgar Ponte's there. He a great, humble man, always gets up.
Yeah,
and
he's
says,
been there over 2 years as well. He's in his third year also.
Yeah.
That's that's how he says it. That's the best way to say it.
But yeah, sometimes you see when a big change happens, you're like, oh, it's all going to fall apart. Was it all built around that guy? I think
Like
God's
that.
been.
Ironically.
But weren't you brought on before Edgar?
No,
Yes.
no. I was
You didn't vote for
hired.
him.
I was hired before Edgar became
was
senior
appointed.
pastor.
So, yes.
I'm sorry,
Yes.
Pastor Dr. Poponte. Edgar Ponte.
Pope
I was
Ponte.
hired.
Pastor
before
Edgar
he was
does not
voted
like the
on,
Pope
But my
Ponte joke.
first day
Oh.
in the office was a Monday, and the Sunday just before that, we voted on him to be senior pastor. So I missed it
Okay.
by that much.
So, ministry math, you round up or whatever, but we run a couple thousand on Sundays. I think we're at like 3 or 4.
Yeah.
And then in students, ballparking ish, our gatherings on this is rounding up.
Sundays and
but
Wednesdays,
Sundays and
yeah.
Wednesdays we're around about 200 in each ministry.
Mhm.
That is round up. It's 150,
Yeah.
200, something in there.
So basically, what you have 15 kids. You have 15 kids, but ministry roundup. You
Yeah,
guys
yeah,
have
yeah. Once you count the roaches and the volunteers,
Yeah.
and then
Well, how
Basically
many
200.
services y'all run then
We're at
On
2.
Sunday
on a
mornings?
Sunday? Just 2?
dose.
So we have 3
Okay.
hours of student ministry programming,
Well,
but there's 2 hours of services.
Gotcha.
there,
okay.
but there's an 8:00 service.
Small group. Not service.
No, small hour. There's like practices
Small
for the
hour.
services.
There's like prayer times and
openly
small
mocked.
groups, and there's a lot of things happening at 8 a.m. Not as many things happening with students.
So
but,
one of the things that you said ahead of time before we kind of got into this was, bigger churches than you guys that have your middle school and high school together.
yeah,
We also know smaller churches than you guys that have their middle school and high school separated.
Yeah.
A lot of different
I
ways to
think
do
it's
it.
very, very interesting the way that you guys have your current setup. Can you walk us through how you do your Wednesday nights?
Mhm.
And then I do think it's important to bring up how you do your Sunday mornings before we get into the topic that we're going to talk about today, which is having a good ministry connection between your high school and middle school. Because
I think it's part of it.
well, but I don't think we're really here to talk about the focus is not the division of the
Sure.
way that
Yeah.
Sure.
but that's going to play into everything else that we talk
Well,
about.
because they're divided. Sorry, that sounds
yeah,
like a
guys,
terrible
we're
term.
doing just fine. Okay, you don't need to
We're
keep
actually great.
trying to divide us.
But did you
divide and
read
conquer.
what Josiah tweeted about you the other day?
Josiah does not tweet. No, you want to
I've
talk about
forgiven
Wednesday?
him.
Sorry,
I forgive him.
But he put up on X.
So I could even talk a little bit about the pretext, like how Idlewild got here too.
Okay.
Because I've got to talk to guys who were middle school pastors like 3 middle school pastors ago.
Yeah.
And hear about their days at Chamberlain High School where they're doing the setup and tear down, and then we moved to
is
Bears
this
Avenue.
the section that when this plays is typically when like the DJ goes to the bathroom because Bohemian Rhapsody is gonna play?
Exactly. I'm
Okay,
going
so
to give
just
you
go
all
ahead
the
and
lore.
Hit that skip button. No.
Yeah, no. So
Yeah.
the short version of it, and why I think it's relevant is as best I understand, middle and high school being 2 different departments, 2 different ministries, sort of, kind of, was more like evolution than design. So the church was growing rapidly at
Sure.
Chamberlain High School. They're doing setup and tear down. They're doing 2 and then 3 services.
What year is this?
This is in the 90s.
Okay.
And then when they moved to Bears Avenue, they were growing really, really fast, and they were only in that building for I think 8 years
A
before
short
they
cycle.
officially moved into the newer building. And they're like, doggone it, we're not going to run out of space again. And so we got a big old piece of property over there with a lot of seats and room for growth. But
Well, Sanctuary is massive
Yeah.
over there.
yeah, there are actually some concerts.
I know, I
Like
bet- I
Kane
bet-
was going to come, and they were like,
Uh-huh.
I don't know if I'm allowed to say that. I think I'm allowed to say that. And they were like, it's too big. It's too big. We can't come here.
Because
Too
it
big.
doesn't feel
What's
good
the-
to
How
have.
big's the auditorium?
It's a 5,000 seat auditorium.
Michael
But y'all-
Caine was going to come, and
Yeah.
he did.
So wait, y'all have you said three on a Sunday,
No, just 2.
2,000 on a Sunday.
Yeah.
Okay,
But
No.
I think
we have like 4,000 people on a Sunday. We have 2 services.
2,000 per service.
Ballpark. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Now I'm
Yeah.
tracking with you. Because I was going to say, I'm like, that's
Again,
a lot
so
of...
like basically 150.
Yeah,
Exactly.
You round up.
yeah.
But so I think the ministry was growing really, really fast, and they were like, we need more people. We gotta subdivide this. We gotta have captains over captains and delegate responsibility.
Yeah.
And so middle school and high school is a natural way to do that. And so our ministries are two separate ministries that really are one in a lot of ways, but it wasn't always like that. So they used to do like middle school camp at a totally different place, and
Oh, wow.
middle school was as separate from high school as most churches. Kids ministry is from student ministry.
Gotcha.
I think when Zach brought me on, he was just kind of talking about his vision. He goes, we don't really want to have two departments. We want to have a student ministry that has high school ministry happening and middle school ministry happening.
Yeah.
And I was about that. And we've tried to thread that needle because there is some contextualization that you can do that's really valuable. But also we want to keep that culture of one vision. So that it's not all so disjointed. But as you asked about our programming, Wednesdays we have a middle school and high school service happening simultaneously. Same time. 6:30, 7:45.
Josiah actually holds to the calendar or the allotted time better than I do. He's a better preacher than I am, so I preach too long. And
I'm a shorter preacher than him presently.
So ours doesn't end.
You know
on
your
time,
audience.
but his usually does.
Yeah. But we have a great gathering. Again, it's between 150, 200 in the middle school service and the same in the high school service. Those are happening at the same time. We've implemented some discussion groups.
At both?
At both.
Nice.
Yeah, you wanted those.
I did.
I just couldn't pull 20 volunteers out of thin air.
Yeah,
Sorry.
but
Hey, can I tell you, I'm just excited where it is.
Yeah, God's provided,
You helped.
and it's really cool. On Sundays, you'd be surprised at how similar it is to a kind of a more typical church experience of Sunday school. We gather together in our main auditorium space. We'd have some announcements, read some scripture, pray, and then kick them out to their classes. And classes have 2 leaders, and really kind of our target size is like 8 to 15 students. So we have a lot of classes. Generally speaking, at the very least, we tend to have one for every age group and for every gender. Sometimes if those get really big, we'll try to launch a new class from that and have
That
2
makes sense.
on the same hour, same age.
Nobody wants to be the 8th grade boys B team.
So colors.
I mean, B team has connotation.
Yeah, so you have to do
So,
colors.
yeah.
You don't have the A class and the
We
B
call
class.
it the better class and the less good class.
Teal and
We
orange.
don't do that.
Teal and orange.
The backup class. No, I'm joking.
So yeah, that's the way that we navigate it. So we still, even though it is a large church, people are always like, "Oh, I'm freaked out about Idlewild because it's so big." Ken Whitten would always say something like, "Nobody likes a big church, but everyone likes a small town." It's like a very friendly small town, and so like I'm literally
It's the size of a small town.
Yeah, I was really stressed out after my first year of
This
work.
is so good.
I couldn't learn everybody's names, and that's what I want to do because like I'm from a 1 stoplight town. We all know each other,
Your
and
town has a stoplight?
yeah, dude,
Mine
we're a
doesn't.
big deal. And I was like, I just can't get everyone's names in my head. And then I Googled it during a Wednesday service. The population of my hometown is lower than the average attendance of Idlewild. And I'm like, that's why I'm not learning everybody's
That
name.
makes sense.
But
Did
so-
that make you more stressed, or did you go,
It was
"Okay,
freedom.
I'm not crazy"?
It was like, okay, I don't have to know every name. That's legal. But in that big church, you have to make those pockets of like community.
Yeah.
And so we try to make it a manageable. We don't want anyone to come through a big service or any service and get missed. And so that's why we leaned hard into the discussion groups. That's why we lead hard into the small groups on Sunday.
Now, do you take the liability of like, okay, it's our
Yes.
responsibility? Is it? Do you see it as your responsibility to make sure that everybody is welcomed or feels like they're getting into the program, or you're kind of like you take that to its nth degree and say like, okay, there's no way I can learn everybody's name. There's no way I can make sure everybody gets ran into. Like, do you kind of
wanna talk student
forego
service?
that or like that responsibility, or do you take it upon yourself?
So when we have a parents meeting, for example, I grew up in a church with like 15 kids in the youth group.
Yeah.
And I knew all of them. My dad was a pastor, started in our family's living room. And so like we knew everybody there. And I'll use that as an example. And I'll say, when I first came into a church like Idlewild, I thought there's no way the pastors here are going to know my name. And I had like a big church phobia. And I was like, they're probably watering it down. And this place is really shallow and superficial.
Sure.
And that's not been the case at all. I've only ever worked in 2 churches that growing up I would have considered mega churches. And so I think God was like, you don't like big churches? Well, tough luck. But what I've found is I've explained it this way. When I talk to a parent and I say, I might not know the unique names and stories and personal needs of every single one of the students. There's about 600 students who are active in our ministry right now.
Yeah.
Like they attend at least once a month.
And you don't know every name?
No, believe it or not, I
That's so
don't.
wild.
No, I
I
think
feel
I know,
bad
I think I
every
know a bunch of them.
Yeah.
But what I'll say is like, I might not know their name, but their leader does. And their leader does.
Okay.
And their leader's going to notice when they're gone. And they're going to get your student, if they miss 3 or 4 weeks, they're going to get a text or a call from their leader.
Yeah.
And those leaders are not perfect. But one of the reasons we said we try to keep those groups around like 8, 10, 15 at the most is partly because of the size of our classrooms.
Mhm.
But so there's like a floor plan layout
Yeah,
aspect of it.
practical.
But we also say like Jesus had 12 disciples and he was God.
Yeah.
Like he was infinite and he
Yeah.
was like 12 is good.
But like we also we try to do a lot of ownership of
Yeah.
like mobilizing people, like our volunteers, trying to give them jobs and things to do to help that hospitality happen. Also, one of our team members does a great job with the ministry Zack kind of brought with him called Student Serve, where we mobilize some students. And so they're by the iPads, they're holding the welcome signs, they're kind of taking ownership of that hospitality.
Good.
And it's better sometimes when it comes from someone, a teenager, versus like the adult in the room is talking to you. You know it's
Yeah.
just because they're required. Like
Yeah,
you really
yeah,
want a
yeah.
teenager to be welcoming them. So we try to mobilize our students to be part of that.
That's cool.
Which I will say, for your size of ministry, it's not the easiest to maneuver to get into that, like the hallways. Like it's not the most amazing setup.
Mhm.
And so you really have to be extra intentional about having students. And so let me brag on them a little bit. They have students that will stand out in the hallways, both looking for students that look alone and making sure that they're connecting with their student friends that are. Then they have students that are inside the room, seeking to make that connection. And then on top of it, they've got some leaders around. At least that's the way it always was down in the middle school. And I think that's the way you guys have it up there. So let's talk about like, why are those intentional moments for you two so important, having the vast ministry? Like, how are you making sure that you are not falling into the lazy side of ministry of we've got 200 kids, like
Never going to be able to know them all.
listen. So I just, and so how are you making sure you are not falling into the lazy side of ministry? And then number two, what are you doing right now to equip your leaders so that they feel equipped and ready to take the students that they have?
Yeah.
Because I can
you
say
said in those moments where you're talking about like the ministry as a whole, or like those hospitality moments.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yes.
You're like all the above.
Both and.
I don't know. You want to rock, paper, scissors? You want to go
No,
first?
yeah, I'll go first. One thing that we talk a lot about at the pastoral table is like we're going to account for this. That we're going to stand before the Good Shepherd and say, "What have you done with this stewardship that I gave you?"
Yeah.
So I think that's something that lives appropriately in the minds of all of our pastors, and be like, "Hey, it's big is no excuse. You've got to be. You're going to give an account for the people that God has entrusted to you." And that passage that we just kind of alluded to, when Jesus got to the end of his life and ministry, and he said, "I haven't lost any of the ones that you've entrusted to me, except for the son of perdition." That just that weighs in my heart, and it's one of the challenges about. I hate that I don't know every one of my students' names, and I want to live uncomfortable with that, but also understand, it's a larger church ministry, so we got to mobilize more leaders. But yeah, just you can't be lazy. Our God's not lazy. He's so faithful in knowing his children by name and all that sort of stuff. And so looking at that example, you can get in a lazy lane. You're gonna stand before the king and say, "What have you done with what I've given you?" So that's something that we talk a lot about. We are trying ever to clarify and know who's Idlewild, who's active, who are we going to give an account for, because we want to make sure that we're stewarding them well, being faithful for discipleship steps and journeys. But I mean, so we also talk about equipment.
I was just gonna say, as you were talking about that, like our senior pastor, Pastor Edgar, he's kind of alluded to that passage and referenced it from time to time, and he says, on that day when we stand before the perfect and righteous judge, and we have to give an account for those he entrusted to us, it will not be a good excuse to say, "But God, you don't understand. There's a lot of people here, and our hallways are a little more narrow than we would have preferred. It was it wasn't very hospitable." Like that's not going to be a good excuse. Right. And I think in 2 Corinthians 11, Paul talks about some of the trials and things that he's been through, and some of the punishment and things that he's been through. But in that list, amongst whippings and getting beat and being shipwrecked and things like that, he says, on top of that, there's the constant anxiety that I have for all the churches. And I think there's a healthy weight. When God calls you to something, he breaks your heart for it. And you wake up thinking about it, and you're like, "Oh, we've got a student who's walking through this issue right now. Oh goodness, I need to get them connected with another person or another trusted disciple maker or somebody like that." So I think when you were like, "How do you do that?" I'm like, "Oh, anxiety."
You're like, "We don't know. Thanks for bringing it up. Good job, Kyle." New fear unlocked.
I haven't tweaked out recently, but
I thought of that phrase a lot, of Jesus, man of sorrows. That that as we care for souls, that it's appropriate to weep sometimes and to wear that burden appropriately. But you also talk about, I think in my ministry, something that's happened from time to time is I've been the bottleneck. It's like, if ministry's going to happen here, it's all going to have to happen through me at some level, and that I've found that number is about 35. That's about the number of people that I can make feel loved and engaged and connected with. And moving into this world, it's like, well, that can't happen because I cannot have it only be the kids that I have the bandwidth for that feel loved, seen, and discipled. Yeah. And so our church has done a wonderful job in equipping us with tools to help them be involved in the discipleship journey. And so we've got a church management software that our leaders have access to that's going to help them know the contact information of both the students and the parents in their group, take attendance. It's imperfect. We're still working on some of the kinks, but we're trying to figure out like how to even give them assignments when new students come to be like, hey, follow up with them this week. And there's like a little task in their app that they can click.
Do you mind sharing what that?
It's a touch point app we're working with right now. I have also utilized Word of Life's Multiply tool at one of my last churches, which was great to put that in the hands of leaders and say, hey, these are the people, this is the discipleship challenge, this is attendance, this is contact information. So anything that doesn't matter what tool necessarily, but giving your people a tool to say, hey, these are the ones you're going to give an account for. Yeah. We have now empowered you to do some of that follow up and do some of that care.
Yeah. And so as you mentioned, like it's imperfect. We're not doing it perfectly. There's a lot of things that we still want to learn and areas of this that we want to grow. And we're learning from a lot of different people and pastors who are great at this. But some of what we've been working through right now is those assignments like you talked about. So we just walked through like an MIA report basically is what we call it. And we say, hey, these people have not checked into their class in 3 or 4 weeks. And so Mr. and Mrs. Small group leader, ma'am, sir, we need you to reach out to them. And we just assign them as a task, not to make it sound like cold and we don't care about these people. But I think what we've realized is like, if we don't want people to slip through the cracks, it can't just be living in here. It's like, we've got to use some of these tools and we've got to use some rosters, which we're making it sound like more complex than it is, but these are just Sunday school rosters.
It's intentional.
They've existed for
it's intentional.
a long time.
I was going to have you talk about that next point or ask that question for the next point. But one of the other things that you guys do that I thought was lovely, it was not birthed from you, it was prior to you, but each age group has like parents that will invite that whole age group over to their house, which then makes, hey, this is where you can invite your friends out to, but then it also gets everybody who might go to church on Sunday or might go to church on Wednesday, now gives a little cross-cultural kind of connection point. How are those going? And are you seeing success from those? Is that helping those adult leaders feel like that also takes that intentionality to the next step? And
just making sure you're talking about like home groups for the classes. I'm trying to remember.
Parties. Like class parties.
Yeah, so we do those kind of things, not like on a scheduled like once a month or on the
but on a fairly regular basis.
We're trying to constantly push them forward, and I think it's funny. Each year, it's almost like an entirely new ministry. Like what leaders have come back and all those sorts of things, and what students are there. But that has been something that's been a culture that we really value. I know one of our leaders, incredibly hospitable, opened up his home after camp, and I think it was more of like a party for his friends and his son's friends, and like
the kids who went to camp.
It was a high schooler,
and everybody showed up.
So this middle schooler came up to me and was like, "Oh, I heard there's a party at such and such," and I was like, "I don't know anything about that. He's right over there. You can go ask him."
Shout out to Philip and Mr. Steve Ernst. Sure. Yeah, they came up. You know the Ernst.
Oh, absolutely.
They came up to me and was like, "Hey, he came up to Josiah and was like, do you know where the party at the Ernst is? Like, what's the address?" And it was like, "I don't think you're invited to that. I don't think most people are invited."
So I didn't know. So I sent this middle schooler. I was like, "I don't know that's an Ernst. You can go ask him." And they're like, "Yeah, come on." So that's cool. We have also
like your typical movie high school party that like
got out of hand.
I invited these 4 friends and that's it. And
right,
3 schools show up.
Exactly.
But every year we're trying different things to do that. We're trying to, in the middle school world right now, trying to make sure each class is having like hospitality time. So like parties off campus or like in the season. Don't make fun of me, Kyle. I'm going to misspeak some.
You're hospitable.
And Zack last year was pushing for like having like almost like classroom mom sort of thing, like someone that's going to have parties like that. That's how it happens at my kids' school. It's like that's the mom that's in charge of parties. So we've been trying to get more and more saints involved in this work to make sure that culture keeps happening.
And some groups like it happens so naturally. Some groups are like, you don't have to tell them. But like when I was like 24 years old and if I was like co-leading with another 23-year-old dude, like we're not thinking as a parent. We're not trying to think of we're not thinking of the logistics. Yeah. So I had somebody reach out to me and say, "Hey, we're going to take some of our 10th grade guys to the movies." And I was like, "How are they going to get there? Is their parent dropping them off? Like which movie theater? Because your kids live like in a 50-mile radius." I was like, "What if you give it to a mom instead? One of their moms is going to be way better at figuring this out for you, and you're not going to do anything. You're just going to show up and and socialize with the kids.
It's
going to be great.
We had some male leaders that will
Yeah.
remain nameless. That were like, we need to find them a mom to help them like make this party happen.
Yeah.
But so it's something we try to encourage, that like community.
Yeah. Hey, Stacking Chairs audience, can we take a moment to just talk about how there's not enough hours in the day for everything on your plate? I know for me, things can get pretty hectic. Between crafting sermons, planning small groups, keeping parents updated, and maybe even setting up chairs, it's easy to feel overwhelmed. What if you could reclaim some of that time? Word of Life Youth Ministries wants to help by offering you a free youth group series that's designed to save you time and deepen your connection with your students. Each lesson is ready to go with detailed teaching notes, small group guides, and discussion starters. The Parent Connect feature keeps parents engaged without you lifting a finger. Also, don't forget about the Multiply app. It brings everything together, allowing you to track your students' spiritual journeys and reward their growth. Imagine having more time to attend your students' games, grab a coffee, or just be available when they need to talk to someone. This isn't just about saving time. It's about making a lasting impact for the kingdom. Visit the link in the show notes and download your free youth group series today. Your students and your future self will thank you. Kyle, I know you were pointing to it, but I kind of want to jump into the second question because I don't think we touched on it enough. May I?
Hey, you know what? As my what I don't even remember.
Equal rights and authority co-host.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Equal rights. I like that. So, as your co-host,
could that be the way
Do
that
you
you
guys
introduced me?
do you guys want to talk about this?
I'm gonna start
Do you
saying-
want someone who could, like maybe a pastor who could encourage you?
I'm your host, Josh Polhemus. This is my co-host.
This is my equal.
No, so you guys are talking a lot about like how even that party is kind of what sparked it in my head, and I really want to touch on this. Is you said there were middle schoolers who were walking up and asking if they could go to the party, right?
Mm-hmm.
So how do your entire program is built around them happening at the same time, but there's a part of the program because you guys all know how it operates.
Yeah.
I have no idea, which congratulations, audience.
Who's
I'm on
the
your side.
outsider
I
now?
also don't know. You also don't know how it operates.
Yeah.
So you have these two things that happen simultaneously, and then they come together for a portion.
Yes. You're talking about Sundays or Wednesdays? Because they're
Give
different.
me both.
They're a little bit of both. You want to do Sundays? I'll do Wednesdays.
Yeah, Sundays is simple. So at Sundays we gather together, all students, middle and high school. And that's where we have that kind of the same space. We have a 9 square space where they can play some games and just hang out beforehand. So middle schoolers and high schoolers are sharing that space. And we're going through announcements and scripture together during that time. And then they're going to break off into their individual age graded classes.
And that works because on a Wednesday night, middle and high school wouldn't all fit into hall
No.
one. I don't think they would. But on a Sunday morning, it's 8 a.m., 9:15.
But you guys
11.
do that every once in a while.
We do, and
Yep.
it's getting tight. It's getting pretty uncomfortable when we do it in hall 2, which is a little bit bigger room. So I think it's even worth mentioning, like the building we're in now was built with middle and high schoolers having a Wednesday night service at the same time. So there's a room downstairs. We creatively called it Hall 1. And then upstairs, you bet it. You guessed it. It's Hall 2. And they're very, very similar, but it's a space that's like medium size worship auditorium. And we're very grateful for the spaces, but like middle school meets on this floor and high school meets on this floor. And sometimes we hear each other singing if
it's so
like
fun.
we
always
finish
hear the high
yeah,
schoolers
they always hear
singing.
that singing. And that's fine. And then probably like 3 or 4 times a semester, we intentionally do a Wednesday night service together. Sometimes we're doing a sermon series that like they're totally different sermon series. So
Yeah.
you guys did one series at the start. We're like, I think all of last year we were in different sermon series.
Mostly.
This year, like we started a sermon series together.
Mm-hmm.
No. I'm thinking of Ordinary Legends. We
Sure.
started those separately, but then we like brought it all home together.
Yeah.
And then some other times we'll start a series together, like kick off a new series.
Yeah.
And just kind of do things on our own because
So we have planning meetings. And
Nice.
we come together and we talk about a preaching calendar and look for enough rhythm that it's like, okay, we want the middle school ministry to feel like a thing. We don't want them to be constantly interrupted,
Yeah.
but we also want to intentionally bring them together. So like our kickoff at the beginning of the year, we're going to try to have that be a little bit, maybe a time that we rally.
Mhm.
And there's also, we've done, we did a winter camp last year and brought the middle school, high school together for that.
Yeah.
And so we are intentionally looking for spaces and places in our programming to make them think of themselves as a student ministry and not a middle school ministry and high school ministry.
Well, so the teaching times are separated, but the rest of the Wednesday night, is it like
no
you go-
worship is separate too.
they're
Yeah.
unique hour and 15-minute services.
Okay, so
games,
okay.
music,
Hour and a
separate.
half if you're in high school.
Well, and I will say this, one thing that I appreciated, which I would like for you guys to talk about, is there is that tension sometimes between when the middle schoolers show up and the high schoolers are like, oh my goodness. But the intentionality of the high schoolers have to walk through essentially the middle school area to get to the high school. You can't avoid it, but most traffic kind of go. So there's this automatic kind of coming together. It's not like middle schoolers, you need to get out of our space and go upstairs. It's kind of like, hey, high schoolers, could you get out of our space and could you go upstairs?
I never thought about that. Yes, that's on purpose. We did it.
Someone else was doing it on purpose.
Well, and then there's the little cafe thing right behind your area that everybody kind of mingles together.
Yeah.
So that's huge on Wednesday. Before services, there's a social space with some games, some foods available to them. And that's for both
Okay,
groups.
perfect. That I think it's an important aspect. That sticks in my mind is, getting them connected to each other, program-wise separate, it makes sense to me. I mean, we have small groups or small groups after our teaching time, and like the application that I give to the middle schoolers is going to be different because that's who I lead than what they're going to do for the high school. So I understand that, but everything else we do together because we're a small youth group. But I think if you didn't have that part at the beginning, that's where I would start to say, how do you really build that connection so that way when they go to high school, it's not we're the others.
I think so. We've talked about this as a team before. Like if we're doing the exact same service, exact same sermon upstairs and downstairs, then we're just wasting energy. Like why are we doing that?
Why split them
and
up?
we do, like most churches don't have a middle school pastor and a high school pastor. So we have the opportunity to do something that not everybody gets the opportunity to do.
Yeah.
Middle schoolers learn in different ways than high schoolers. And high schoolers are ready for different kinds of abstract thought that middle schoolers maybe aren't ready for.
Yeah.
And so if we don't leverage that, what are we doing? And so we've been, I think really just this last year and a half, doing a better job at leveraging that, and at the same time saying, hey, we're all in the same service on a Sunday morning, and that's okay, right?
Yeah.
And I think our pastor, or whoever's speaking on Sunday morning, does a good job at contextualizing that so that there's something for everybody. But yeah, if we're just doing the exact same thing, carbon copied and paste without any contextualization. And what are we doing? And so Josiah's done a really, really great job with that in the kind of applications that he does, but even the kind of illustrations that he does.
Yeah.
And I know he works really hard at that. So
we try to shade the flavor thing, but it's also constant coaching. I remember very distinctly in that group hangout place, there was a group of high schoolers that were kind of sitting down at a table, and they were kind of complaining about having the middle schoolers around for something. Yeah, it was crazy. Never. And like
Zack was in the middle of it, wasn't he?
No. I'm gonna. So and I was trying to get them to get it, and so we were talking to them about it, and I was like, "Do you remember what it was like to be in middle school? It's awful. You're uncomfortable. Everything's comfortable. Like you were annoying once. It's fine." And then, so I'm trying to like get them to have a vision for like have a heart, have some compassion. Being in middle school is hard. Some of my middle schoolers walk by and hear me to say like, "You were annoying like the middle schoolers once," and they were like,
"No,
what? Pastor Josiah thinks we're annoying." We started shouting. I'm like, "No, that's out of context. That's not what I think. It's not how I feel." And like same thing. It's a lot. So our middle school, it's not everywhere in the country, but our 6th graders are considered middle school, and they're tiny babies compared to some of our gigantuan 19-year-old, seniors are just, and some of them are like 6, 7, and dang, I didn't even mean to do that. I'm so sorry.
He's been working exactly what he was doing.
I was gonna say 6'4", and then I was like, "No, we got to be a little more hyperbolic." I am sorry.
It's a subconscious thing now.
It's rough. But like
41.
The parents.
I think we said it all the time. We just didn't realize.
Not everyone did this.
Yeah. Anyway.
Like parents will come kind of freaked out. And so you have to like coach them through. It's like, hey, it's going to be okay. We don't do this all the time, but this is valuable. And this is why we do it. As a church, we talk about trying to be cross-generational.
That's my next question.
And if we're not willing to be like 6th grade and 9th grade, too big a gap.
Yeah. No, I think that's really important. And it's cool. We had just had a 9th grade and 10th grade retreat. And there's a kid who's only been a Christian about a year. He's only been at our church about a year. But we were just kind of doing some whiteboarding. We're like, what are some strengths you guys see in our ministry? What are some things we need to capitalize on? And what are like some weaknesses? Spiritual disciplines, things that we need to grow in. And like from the mouth of babes, one of our 9th graders literally goes, I mean, we're like really segregated as a church, like different age groups. That's kind of weird. Like, I feel like we should spend some time with the senior adults and maybe like the middle schoolers and high schoolers could be together more often. And I was like, this has been a point of prayer. This has been like a strategy. Do you know this has been a part of our strategy, or you're just telling us what we want to hear? It was like a eureka moment. It was so cool to hear it coming from them. But I think it's been a journey. So we when we first got there 2.5 years ago, and Kyle was middle school pastor, we would do a combined night, and we consciously observed. A lot of high schoolers would say, "I'm not going to go." Why? Because there's middle schoolers.
Well,
I'll
that's
go, that's terrible.
Well,
That's
and
awful.
we talked about that. And I remember the one kind of conversational point was, if we don't make the middle schoolers feel welcome when they come up there, when it's time
They
for them
won't
to
be
come
here.
up there, they won't
Yeah.
stick around. And so I remember there was one time that Zack actually allowed me to speak to the high school, and I made some type of statement. I don't remember exactly, but it was kind of one of those things of, if you love this church and if you love this youth ministry, you have got to realize they are the future of this youth ministry.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And aren't you so glad that somebody along the way didn't make you feel like the way that you're potentially making you feel, or possibly you go, no, that is how yeah, but so how can you change the past?
Yeah, I think we've grown a lot in that area, and I'm
That's
really
awesome.
proud of the progress
I
that they
love
made.
that.
I think it was something. It takes repetition and constantly like celebrating the culture that you want to see.
Well, but
So-
I want to pause here for a second, because the thing that I keep hearing from you guys is, in some ways, if you had a bigger space, you might do things together more often, but you wouldn't always. So there's some things, like there are some people that are listening that are like, oh, we separate high school and middle school. How many kids do you have? We have 15. And you would go, well, you don't have to, but you can.
Mhm.
So it's not just that space drove you to be, and I hate to use the word divided, but divided this way.
separated.
Separated.
It's a cleaner word.
But it definitely played into a factor. So, like, for instance, you started shaking your head no, and if you're not watching, by the way, you can watch. But if you aren't, you kind of didn't seem like, if you had a bigger space, you would
Yeah.
always be together.
I don't know that we would, because like we have the ability to do that as often as we want to now. But like I was saying, most churches don't have the incredible blessing of having a middle school and a high school pastor. So I think it's something to leverage. It's an opportunity to say, we do get to like curate this message for the developmental stage and the place in life and the culture that a middle schooler is experiencing, and the application points that are going to speak to them. And then we can do the exact same thing for a high schooler. So especially our high school service, we kind of like redesigned it quite a bit this year, and said, let's take advantage of that opportunity. And so we don't have like an evil plan to be like, one day there is no middle and high school. That's not a part of the plan. But in the same way, like, so the example that I've used is if somebody walks in and says, there's a high schooler here, they're dangerous, I don't want them around my kid, I would say, I would reprimand you if you said that about a 25-year-old, or if a 25-year-old said that about a 50-year-old and said, oh, there's 50-year-old people here, I'm leaving. I'd go, that's not Christ-like. I mean, if you're not saved, if you're not a Christian, of course we understand that. But I would say we would reprimand that kind of like clanning up mentality. That's like, I only want to be around people who are just like me. Like you're going to hate it in heaven. You're really going to be miserable when you get there in glory. And so that's what
we're
going to
hate it here on earth too.
Yeah, you're going to hate it in the real world. Yeah. So that's what we're trying to steer away from. The last church where I served was getting larger and larger, around 200 students, and we kept wrestling with this question: do we split middle and high school? What do we do? Do we split? We find the space, or we find another pastor? But we kept talking to people who said, as soon as you do, they don't like each other anymore, and we didn't want to ruin that. And it was something, and so it just opens up a new Pandora's box and new ways to disciple people.
They talk about like an evangelism always tends to fall to the back burner, so you have to always be intentional about putting it to the front.
Sure.
And I think this is the other thing, like birds of a feather flock together, and sometimes there's you can use that to your advantage. And like, middle schoolers are going to be a little bit more naturally comfortable around middle school so getting to have a middle school service is an advantage. This is great. Yeah. But also, if we do believe that this is how God's built His church to be, this multi-generational thing, we have to steer right to go straight sometimes, and intentionally give them to that. And it's not just a question of do they like it or not. Sometimes it's like, these are your vegetables, like eat it, it's good for you. And so we're kind of constantly coaching and encouraging.
Am I broccoli in that analogy? Like if they have to come in,
I was thinking more of asparagus.
I was going to say asparagus.
I would love to be asparagus.
You look like an asparagus
with a nice little balsamic glaze.
You guys are much spicier than I imagined on the podcast.
In a good way.
I don't feel like saying you look like asparagus is a compliment in any way, shape, or form.
I take it as the highest form.
Dude.
Compliment.
Oh well, I'm
do you not like asparagus?
You look like Larry the Cucumber.
I'll take that.
Yeah, you got Larry Cucumber vibes.
His main character.
I was going to say
love
Bob
that.
the tomato.
I don't want to be Bob.
Because you're getting a little red.
That's because I was stealing emotions.
Oh, like definitely. I was thinking more junior asparagus because he's young, but
he's older than I am.
I take all of these things as a compliment.
Okay, so let me park on something that we started talking about this in another episode, and then we just moved past it. And I said it, and you were like, "That sounds controversial." And fair. I have started coming from a place of how dangerous is program, and program is a good thing. It's an inevitability of our culture. Our churches have been built around it for a very long time now. But the danger of program is this. My daughter, if we go to church and she is never with the adults the entire day, comes in, checks her in, goes away, I don't know what she's being taught. That's a reality. Now, I trust the people that she's teaching.
They
and
send
that's
really good emails though, right?
Yeah, okay. But I know what she's being taught because I trust the people that are there, right? But if we're constantly separated by young, then middle school, and then high school, and then college, and then we have the adults, and we have this big part that we call the program of Sunday service, and
that's big church.
And they're all by themselves. The danger is that we're not all together, and a divided flock can be easily attacked and separated.
I'm sorry.
Sorry, and so just to land that plane,
don't land the plane. Don't hurry. You're making great points.
I'll land this part of it, which is how do you be careful of that, so that way because I started a young adult ministry, and so I'm giving that disclaimer because I'm started a new program because the guys I was discipling in my youth group were going, well, now what? I don't want to be really involved because like I graduated and like what am I supposed to do with this? Like it's all the adults, and it's like, okay, how do I basically create a segue into you're an adult? And so we started a young adult ministry. I have 30-year-olds, I have a 40-year-old, and it's basically here's the secret, and don't tell them.
Wait,
it's a home group.
Can I fit?
Yeah. We have people with kids.
I'm still a young adult.
Sure.
Let's go.
But that's what I'm saying. That's the secret. It's literally just a home group, but I call it young adult group. And so these people who weren't getting involved in home group, weren't getting discipled on another level, are now coming in and going, I'm part of a young adult group, and I have a 40-year-old there.
But just to identify something that you did there, home group has become more part of our common parlance or vernacular.
That's what I was curious.
But that's a kind of new invention-ish too. So some things are like, well, that's just this thing. That is a programmatic thing that some churches tried at a certain point in their evolution and history. Yeah. And so even things that have become more familiar to us that may be like, well, that's really organic and natural. It's like, well, that's another thing that we're trying to do, because I love the intentionality and wisdom of God, that when he gave us scripture and he talked about what the church is, it's relatively minimalistic, which is beautiful. Yeah. And the behold wisdom of God, it has been able to manifest in Tampa Bay, Florida, in the context of a metro church that's really big, and in Uganda, in a place that looks totally different, and in the underground church in China. So because of the kind of the framework God has given us, like, hey, this is what the church is what it does. He's also in wisdom given some space and some great that it can take some different shapes.
But I think
I like that.
Prone to wander, Lord, I feel it. Prone to leave the God I love. Let's be honest. I think if he told us what to do, we would compare how I do it better than you do it.
Sure.
You know, and let's be honest, like we already have a little bit of, like, for instance, I hope there are some people that stayed on, even though they're like, oh, these guys are from a big church. That's not my context. Yeah. Because everything we talked about today,
they've got people to do everything.
Who cares
whether I stack more chairs in this big church than I ever stacked in a church.
Right.
Let me just say that right there.
And I'd be curious, are there times, Josiah, in the last 2 years that you've been like, I wish I could just go back?
You don't have to answer that.
No,
this goes out publicly.
Because here's the deal. In some ways, here's what I absolutely love. Every time I've interacted with you, Josiah hasn't changed. What Josiah is doing in some ways has, but in many ways has not changed. How Josiah does it has to change for two reasons. Number one, different group of people. Number two, vast, wider reach of ministry. Like the fact that you had in your previous ministry kids from 3-4 schools. Now you've got kids from 6-7 schools,
60 or 70.
Yeah, it's
schools.
crazy.
Right.
Yeah.
And so again, like each of those different things has to factor in.
Yeah.
What breaks my heart is that unfortunately there probably were some people that were like, oh, these guys, once you mention the size of your ministry, like, oh, whatever. Or think, well, of course you can do that. To your point, you have it together.
No, I'm sad.
The problems are the same. Yeah. Small church, what's your biggest problem? We need more volunteers. Big church, what's your problem? We need more volunteers. Small church, what's your problem? We have volunteers, but they're not equipped. Big church, what's your problem? We have volunteers, but they're not equipped.
Yeah.
The one thing that I have loved every time I've talked to you guys is you are trying to do your utmost best to have a plan, but not fall in love with your plan.
That's huge.
Number two,
because you make a golden calf out of it.
Right. Number two thing, you guys have tried to be students of your culture, but not being taught by your culture.
Yeah.
That's like fair. To learn it, but not to go, oh, this is what's going on. Like, for instance, prior to the
you'll
podcast
say 6, 7, but you won't do an entire sermon series on it.
Right. Like we joked about Enneagram, and we talked about how some pastors even preach on Enneagram. I don't care your feelings about that. That's not the point of the conversation right now. The point of the conversation is you guys have been students enough to go, that's a big enough thing. We should know something about it, but we're not going to allow that thing to determine the way that we do our ministry.
Yeah.
I'm in a season of learning to talk less, and I have a thought, but I feel like I'm
trying to talk less.
Oh,
so
shoot.
If both of us talk less, no one's going to talk.
All right, I will do.
This is a fun season.
I'll say something that for you're talking about that program, the same thing that leaped into my mind. I'm going to reference a book I've never read. I know I'm supposed to read it because everyone says it's great. The Trellis and the Vine. That concept of but so I don't actually. Like I said, I haven't read the book, but I think that this concept of programs are something that we do to support the church, right? That and have to be fitting for the needs of it for that season. If you are growing something at a certain point, the trellis that you were using might not fit well anymore, and you might have to change some things about it to allow for the continued health and ongoing improvement of the plant. So that it's that concept of like, am I building the programmatic choices that I'm doing? Does it make sense for my context, whatever it is, and is it still make sense for my context? Because what you just said about not falling in love with the program, not marrying and not coming to worship, well, this has been the way it's always been. Is so important. There are things that are from God that this is what the church does. Any generation, any size, if it's not that, it's not a church, right? So we have to do that. But what does that look like? Of course, that's going to manifest differently. And some of them, it's the programmatic things that we do are trying to make something that fits the needs of the moment to best help the flourishing of God's church with whatever is going on at that time.
I was just reading about this. Sunday school is only like a couple hundred years old. And then it was supposed to teach literacy because a lot of these kids were working in the Industrial Revolution and they didn't have time to go to school. So they're like, you can't read. So you can't read your Bible. So I need to teach you English and grammar. That's what Sunday school is. And it's only a couple hundred years old. And so, but if you said, hey, we're not going to do Sunday school anymore, they'd be like, whoa, false teachers.
Do you know Jesus?
Yeah. Probably not. You're going to HE double hockey sticks.
And I'll jump on. You talked about home groups. Read the book of Acts. They all started as home groups.
They did.
Sure.
I knew the point you were making. Like it's been revolutionized.
But something happened in the last 30 years that what we are thinking of. And then that's what's happening.
Yeah. Sorry. And then they started having a bunch of people who were like, we need childcare for our home groups. And they were like, yep, we're going back to the building where they have childcare. But the other thing I was going to, public invitations. Charles Finney was like, 200 years ago, 1700s, 1800s, somewhere around there. Public invitations, the way that we do them now, are very, very new. And so like, there's a lot of things that we think are baked in. Like you're not a church if you don't do this. It's like, well, they were a church for 1800 years before that. People were getting saved. They were still filled with the Holy Spirit. And I think one thing that you were talking about, you had young adults who weren't really getting involved in big church. I experienced that. I was talking to a lot of high schoolers in my last church. I'm like, you got saved in this gym on a Wednesday night in the youth group. And this is the only church you've ever known. I'm nervous for you. Like, because you're about to realize there's more to this and you're going to go away to college. You're going to be like, but it's not like the gym where I got saved on Wednesday night, and they don't have this guy named Zack and this guy named Clint who lead worship. And, I'm nervous for you. Like, you got to realize what's essential. But so one thing that we're trying to do, and I think we've gotten a lot better at it, is every so often, at least a couple times a year, we intentionally bring the students over to the main sanctuary for some reason or another on a Wednesday night. And we're like, hey, we're
pack
all
the prayer service.
We're going to pack the prayer service where we're the whole body. And that service is like 50% students at this point. But then like, we're going to stand up out of our seats in the student building after we finish worship, and we're going over to the main service because there's something good there for all of us.
But that's an answer to my question. Like the question is like, what do you do about program if program? But you answered
spoon
it.
Feed it.
Yeah,
you trick them into doing it.
But you've found ways to, because you're right. Program isn't a sin word. Like it's something we can use, and that trellis analogy I love because you're building something that can work. And my vice is assuming that there's a perfect answer to every question I have. I do believe there is a perfect answer to every question I have.
The Bible.
But the reality is like, I'm not going to be able to find that just by like researching it and just like, and it's going to change per situation.
Well,
because the perfect answer to how to grow a garden in Florida is extremely different than out in the Midwest because it's sandy soil with limestone underneath here in Florida, and you're
And the sun kills everything.
Yeah, and you're 20 feet above sea level at most, or 0 if you're right next to the shore.
Are you a botanist right now?
No, I'm just a
knows a
guy
lot.
who really likes to learn things and really wishes that there was a perfect answer to everything.
Yeah.
And so I researched to death, but that's my vice.
I think I heard someone at the pastoral table recently said, like, you date the method, you marry the message. Like, the gospel is unchanging, but like the way that we go about it can change. Even like, I'm a huge fan. Like, I hear stories of people that like planted churches, and what they did was they did door-to-door visitation. They went and they knocked and they did. And that's totally great. If that's still how the Lord is leading you to do the Great Commission, more power to you. I respect it. And I've tried that recently. I don't know that it's as good of tool right now, because we don't really have an open door culture in America, at least not where I'm at in Florida. Like,
and there's a lot of gated communities.
Yeah, that was the thing. We tried to canvass our whole county, and we kept finding gated communities, and we couldn't go up to them. And people would be like, the no soliciting sign, so they wouldn't answer the door. They wouldn't let us inside. And so, is it okay to stop sharing the gospel? Absolutely not.
No.
Is that the best tool that we have right now to try to get it?
Yeah.
I don't know. I think you guys are doing something creative here, like people figuring out how to use the internet and social media to share the gospel.
Yeah.
How do I find where the people are and talk to them now? So I think it's important to say, okay, what is happening right now in society and culture, and how can I fulfill the Great Commission in the moment that I find myself?
I think there's a statement that I've tried to keep with me as I've gone through, is I want to make sure that I don't fall more in love with the way that I'm pursuing God than the God that I'm pursuing.
That's good.
At the same time, I can say this: I want to make sure that I'm not falling more in love with the way that I'm doing church than the church and the people that are in the church.
Yeah.
And I would say, over my years of ministry, the two biggest potholes or ditches on the other side that I find people fall into is either that's not the way we do it here, or, well, we've tried that before. And I'm like, okay, well, just because that's not the way you do it here doesn't mean that we couldn't try it. And just because you tried it before and it didn't work at that moment, or, for instance, the whole thing of, you may be sitting there going, hey, we divided our youth group. We can't go back. Why not?
Yeah.
Why not? And you may go, well, it's not going to work. Well, it might not work, and it's not going to work perfectly right away. But that's, again, just to kind of come back. The one thing that I've appreciated with you guys is the idea of you're seeking to be intentional together in your ministries. And what I love is you guys are genuinely friends.
Yeah.
But then also you've brought on leaders and understood that there is this tightrope, dance of, hey, we are dependent on our leaders, but we've got to make sure we're still leading and equipping them. And again, coming back, there's not a competition. There's probably some weeks, and there will probably be some years that high school has more students in it than middle school. That may be because you happen to graduate more up and more didn't come in. Or there may be years that there is more of a middle school than high school. But it's not a competition. And if we can constantly be coming together and being creative, and the willingness to lay aside our preferences, and yet at the same time bring our preferences to the table, I've genuinely enjoyed all of my interactions as you guys have kind of.
I really like working with Zack. I love that we're friends, but we're also.
How much does he pay you to?
We're also very different.
Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah, we definitely bend in different directions. Like we are very we normally just have different impulses, and I think that's really healthy on a team. A little bit of push and pull, and I think because we have that strong base of friendship, not everyone can have, but we've worked on that. That we can have honest. Hey, I respect you a lot. This is coming from a good place.
But I want to ask a really important question, because you just said I don't think you were making a statement, but you said we've got a harmony. Here's the problem. One of you has to sing more melody, and the other one has to play more harmony to their melody.
So here's the thing. That's why I actually am not at all ashamed of the org chart, and that he's my boss. And that there's a student ministry department. He's the student pastor, and I'm the middle school pastor.
So Zack, this whole thing has actually been an intervention. It's time for you to
step up. But like, I think that's important.
Review.
Because I think a lot of young.
You joke, but no. I think what I get like bashful sometimes because I just have so much respect for you. But you're totally right. I think there's a reason that churches like ours organize themselves the way that they do, is because sometimes like you gotta pick a decision and run with it. But I do try to in the way that we make decisions, let Josiah know, and other people that I work with, like I don't just want you to work for me. I want to work with you. And if we're not working with each other, this is going to be miserable. If one of us, like me, is just steamrolling every idea and saying, well, yeah, thank you for your input, but this is what I want to do, then nobody's going to have fun. And it's not going to be effective either. So
I think that's a big theme to hit on, right? You guys have a younger audience. I'm sure you work with Word Life Bible Institute, so you got a lot of young guys, and I want a next generation of youth leaders to step into this work. But a constant frustration I see is this: they want to do something, but when the senior pastor doesn't always jump, always go, and always do, there's frustration. You try it for a year and a half.
I was
you
hurt
get
by
mad,
church,
and then you walk away and you say, "I'm done," because they won't listen to me, or I go and I plan another church next door because we're going to do it the right way, my way. Yeah. That I think constantly of this phrase when Jesus interacted with the centurion, said, "I'm a man under authority."
I was just thinking that.
I know what authority looks like. And so we need to know that yes, God is developing us. If you're a young leader and there happens to be someone over you, receive that as from the Lord. Help your leader be better and try to sharpen it and all of those things. But also no, that's providential. Yeah. And man, I think we'd have so much more longevity in the ministry if young aspirational leading men could get comfortable in their chair. God has had me as a number 2 for a long time. And I have to learn to do that well. Yeah. And he keeps putting me in those positions, and I think it's a refining thing. I thought
stop being so good at it. Maybe stop putting you in those positions.
but Joshua. So the book, not this guy. But so we remember him for Joshua, the Battle of Jericho, and all that stuff. Sure. Right? That happened. He got that job at 80 that we remember him for. He lived to 110. For 80 years, he was the second guy. He was in the room, seeing it happen, and all those sorts of things. That is...
We're just going to let that Hamilton reference just slide on by.
But you know that
happen?
That Moses was the one that wrote at the end of Deuteronomy, and there never arose a prophet that was greater than Moses. Sorry, Joshua, deal with it.
I don't know that. There's been a spirit in me at some point. Yeah. At one point or another in my life where I'm like, man, I just need somebody. I would never say it out loud like this, but I just need someone to recognize all my good ideas. And it's like, half of those good ideas, you don't even like yourself a year later. And yeah, so there's a spirit of maybe I'm called. Maybe I need to stack some more chairs. Yeah.
No, I'm talking about the podcast. It was my idea 4 years ago. I'm just kidding.
Oh, really?
I still enjoy stacking chairs.
You still enjoy the title. It still works. But no, I tell people all the time, I'm like, ooh, that guy's got potential. Like it's got leadership. Yeah. He needs to mop the floor. Yeah. He needs to mop the floor for a little bit.
Okay, so last question in my bingo card. You've got to start. You've got to start thinking about handoff.
What?
Yeah, so I'll take it.
Oh, you mean from 8th grade to 9th grade?
No, I'm saying are you looking now
instantly
for the people that either will go from I don't want to bring up. Well,
you're allowed. It is okay.
All right. Your intern, is he still there?
Which one?
Spencer?
Riley? Spencer didn't come on as an intern.
Oh, he didn't?
Yeah.
Okay.
We give him
Spencer's around.
He's awesome.
He still feels like inside baseball.
But somebody like a Spencer, are you looking for him to either take a spot, create a new spot, or holding the door open enough to find him a spot outside of it? Because, and all of those, for instance, I don't look at either of you and think, for instance, I had a guy say to me, I think every position has a shelf life, and I think there's some people that stay past their shelf life. And I said, do you think I've stayed past my shelf life? And he goes,
what are you trying to tell me?
Yeah, maybe. But again, I don't look at either of you and think that of you.
Yeah.
But I'm sure the type of men you are saying, hey, if I need to move out so that the next person can come in, or you're building up the next people that may not take your spot, but may step around. How are you doing that ministry handoff?
Yeah. So I would love to speak to that just because I was the beneficiary of that kind of handoff at the last church where I served. So I was the associate youth pastor for 4 years. You want to know what an associate youth pastor is? It's a made up job because they wanted me to stick around just for the right time. And I tell people all the time, I was like, I got lucky. I was there at the right time at the right place. Because when the previous youth pastor who'd been kind of prepping me to take his role one day, if so, the Lord so chose, when he stepped into another position, it was just very, very natural. I mean, I already knew those kids. I've been there for 4 years. And it was about as seamless of a handoff as I think you can do. Yeah. Not to any credit of my own, because I didn't do it. He did. His name was Asa at Westside Baptist Church. It was such a blessing. And so, yeah, in a perfect world, we'd love to do that in all of these churches. But sometimes, like you said, timing's not right. And sometimes, it's not that there's a position ready right here, but there's a position ready at another church, and that church is going to be blessed because of the experiences that we gave to people like Spencer or like Riley, who just finished an internship with us. And so we definitely want to be training up the next generation and saying like, hey, if I get hit by a bus tomorrow,
ready to be on the episode.
Yeah. Oh, he'd be so much fun. He'd be a lot of fun.
Yeah, Spencer's great.
Yeah.
I think constantly thinking about passing the baton and doing that well. And I think we have to, so a little bit more of our lore, like when I felt like the Lord was confirming that God was moving me from my last post, I let my church, I was at a position that I was able to let my church know
such a baller move.
Well in advance. I was like, hey, this is going to be my last academic year with him. You need to start looking for a guy, and you need to start, and it worked out that we were able to do that. And that was a huge blessing. And because the guy that did it before me was great. But there was 2.5 years that they had an interim that was filling the gap at like 10 hours a week, which was hard. And so I had poured 7 years into this church trying to see it build up. And so I wanted to see that baton passed well and not fall back.
Yeah.
And so we prayed. I said, hey, you need to find a solid interim. You need to start recruiting now. You need to start looking now. I heard about the world's best interim pastor ever.
I love the swap.
Kyle Gray. And so it was super weird. So he was an interim in my current job. And as I was leaving my job, I was like, hey, if you could get Kyle Gray to do this, I think he would do a fantastic job.
Well, and the funny thing is, if I can interrupt you, if you remember, I was sensing that Idlewild was finding a guy.
This is true.
And so
you talked about it on the podcast.
What?
You talked about that on the podcast. You talked about, I feel like or maybe we talked before an episode.
Yes.
You talked about.
So Josiah calls me up and he says, hey, I'm trying to find a new intern. And I said, well, hey, I said, okay,
Interim
great.
Or intern?
Intern. I'm trying to find a new intern because the guy before had done a great job. But he's like, I'm really trying to find a new intern. You remember this conversation? And I said, hey, great. I got as many details. And I said, hey, this might sound really weird. I think the church I'm with is going to find a guy soon. Would you ever let me be your intern?
And my thought was instantly, absolutely not, Kyle. You could not be my intern, but you could do this. And so we had a good conversation about that. But the guy was so gracious and kind. And so I think, and Kyle did it very well. He was able to fill that internship role a second time and then pass the baton off to another guy. Yeah. And I left you and the next guy with a packet of like, hey,
which was awesome.
Here's the stuff, here's the system, here's the things. Cool. I think it was like 30 pages. I just built like, here's the system, here's how things are done. And at month 1 at Idlewild, I started looking. Like, who's the next guy? Like, I never thought I'd do student ministry. I've been doing student ministry debatably for 17 years, which is half of my life now. Yeah. So I don't think I'm going to do it for the rest of my life, but I'm just trying. I'm here to obey. Yeah. But I walk in being like, I'm 34. I don't think I'm going to be a middle school pastor forever. I don't think I'd ever be a middle school pastor. But most things you don't do forever. So I think it's our responsibility. They always say it's the failure. The one thing, the greatest failure of great men is to create great sons. Like, we don't pass the baton well, consistently. And so like, there was a guy I had my eye on. I was really excited. I guess this is a confession time. We'll see if he listens to the podcast, but there's a guy I really like. His name is Josh. I like this Josh a lot.
Oh, cool.
Different Josh though, but he's a Word of Life Josh. And he was like one guy that I was like, that could be a next guy. And he just signed up to be a Word of Life missionary full time out west.
He just signed up to move 3,000 miles away.
And I was devastated on the inside. But I think
because you guys ran him up.
I think it's important to constantly be looking, constantly be working yourself out of a job, including in the ministry, because that's so key. Like, are we going to pass that baton well?
Yeah. I'm doing that in my role right now with Word of Life. I have aspirations to like what I would like to accomplish next within the division, and
don't let him leave.
No. Within Word of Life,
okay.
like I want to take on more responsibilities eventually. Like I want to take on like more goals, and so I'm like, okay, if I bring someone else to work with me, what would it look like to eventually pass off these responsibilities so I can focus on something else? Even just, it doesn't have to be an entire job. Sometimes it can just be portions of it.
Speaking of, I don't know if there's an appropriate place to do this, so I'm going to force it in right now. I've been the volunteer youth pastor at a very tiny church that met in a garage, and there were like 6 kids. And I've been at a pretty big church where we minister about 100 students, 30 at a time or whatever. Yeah. But a lot of those times up till now, I work with a friend, and now I have community in the ministry, and I'm so grateful for that. But I've had a lot of years of student ministry where I was feeling very alone. I was having a hard time having resources. I just want to thank you two guys for doing the Stacking Chair podcast.
Oh,
It was
thank you.
refreshing to get on and think about it with others and have other people to talk shop with and feel a little bit less alone in the work I was trying to do.
Oh.
So I know there's been challenges in this, but thank you for doing this. I think it's an important resource. And it kind of inspired me as like, I need youth pastor friends. And so at my last church, I tried to do that. I tried to strategize and get to do some partnerships and meet some people. So like, don't quit in the work that you're doing. I think this is I'm going to speak for your audience. There are people that feel very alone in the trenches. And this is a good resource to encourage them to say, hey, I'm not the only one asking these questions. I'm not the only one trying to do this. There's other people. And that's so encouraging.
Well, I appreciate that because you actually, even from the very beginning years, would say, hey, I listened to this. I like this point. You know, hey, what do you think about this? And so just to let you all know, we read your things that you send into us. We encourage and look for. Even those of you that want to correct, that's fine. We still do read it. It is hard. Just be kind when you say it.
Breaks his heart.
I've been that one. I sent an email once.
No, that's fine. It's been an ongoing
But it's
joke.
good. We want it.
It's been an ongoing joke in the office that every time I'm like, stacking chairs is too much. I need to figure out a way to not do it anymore. I need to pass it off to somebody else. Like the joke is always, oh, Josh is going to get an email this week saying about how much they appreciate the show. And then he's going to be like sentimental again. And he's not going to be able to. And that has happened every single time to the point that we had the Gideon come on the show. And like he was one of those times that it happened.
Yeah. Is that pizza shop guy?
Yeah. And an email from you was one of those times that it happened where I'm like, man, this show is like, I love it, but it's just too much. Like I need to focus on my job and the other thing and the million other things that I've taken on. Like,
I'll be honest with you. I always listen in double speed though.
That's fair.
And so this is the slowest Stacking Chairs podcast conversation I've ever been a part of. So if you could learn to record in double speed, that would really be a time saver.
That'd be a real courtesy to your guests.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, this is definitely
ADD
this might be the longest episode.
That's
we've
really
done.
good because we really only say half as much as we think we're saying. So when you double speed it, we actually say something. So
Praise God.
Praise God.
Yeah, I was sitting there. I was looking at the time. I was like, do we make this into a two-parter? Do we?
No. We started
Previously
talking
on
at 127, so it's not the longest. It might be the longest, but it's just barely over.
But it's good, and we have two
probably 5
guests.
minutes over.
Do we get a plaque if it's the
You do.
longest? Do we get a
You do.
an award?
Like the
If there's a
YouTube,
plaque,
like the
I'm like,
YouTube
But
gold.
we will
I've got some other
only
stuff we
know-
can talk about.
We will
Yeah.
only know when the show ends.
Yeah, which is right now actually.
I'm gonna drag this out.
was gonna-
right
No,
now.
no,
I gotta make sure.
Like officially run.
It's just, when the
May
show
never
ends,
be.
it just cuts.
Zach, is this the second time on Stacking
Very
Chairs?
first time. Very first time.
First time.
Numero uno.
Because
I'm
Zach and I
I'm
knew
honored.
each other. This is our lore. We went to the Bible
Mhm.
Institute together.
You
first
thought you were
and
the only
second.
ones with lore?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I was actually
What year?
voted in 2014. I was voted best Josiah Brondyke mustache or something. I can't remember.
Did you play on the flag football? Did you play on the
That's
football
amazing.
Oh, sure.
team? Oh, so we were on the same football team too.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
We were pretty.
I was
You
garbage.
just slapped the table so hard, man.
And
But
during
no,
those
so
years,
sorry.
I was having kids.
Okay.
Yeah, you're also. Well, I always forget. I always like
Forget that we met, that we were friends. I came up to your office a bunch when you were recording and editing things. I tried to encourage you in the middle of the night when you were on the island trying to do your
I do
job and
remember
do
all
the
that.
grind.
I
was
remember
like, yo,
Mountain
man,
Dew. Do you
just-
remember Mountain Dew?
Yeah.
We had a bucket of Mountain Dew that we would like use a styrofoam bowl and dip into and like drink out of like a
Oh my
ladle.
goodness.
Gross.
That's great.
No, I always forget that like you and I aren't that far in age. Like my friends are your age now, but when you and I worked together on the island, I was like, oh, this guy's like
Seems so
40
old,
already.
yeah.
Like, you know, but it's just funny now, like
That's
as you get older.
At Word of Life, you can get a little bit of authority pretty fast to like,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
so
yeah.
young be doing a lot. So like, I just didn't talk about my age
Like
with my
Kyle.
students.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You also had
Kyle,
facial
actually
hair.
only 24. It's crazy.
You had more facial hair then than I do now.
Yeah.
And I am 8 years older than you were then.
Yes.
I went to Word of Life when you weren't allowed to have facial hair because it was
Yes,
sin.
amen.
Me
So-
too.
But you could have a mustache, and that's
yeah.
why the
And
camp
that's
stash
why-
existed.
And you could grow the beard if you were in one of the shows.
Oh,
do
yeah,
that?
man. That
yeah,
was,
you
yeah,
didn't
well,
know that
was
like Passion
yeah.
Play,
And
Jesus Bold Man.
Gospel
That
Productions.
was Matthew.
They said I wasn't very Christ-like, so I couldn't play Jesus.
So my mustache from this summer, I was growing out.
Can you, if I don't know, but won't give the editors a job, but you need to throw up a picture of Kyle's mustache this summer because it was so strong.
Bennett.
Listen,
So-
it was definitely.
They've seen it on the show.
The
if
funny
they've
thing is,
watched.
then places I went afterwards, people would be like, "Oh, you shaved your stash." I'm like, "Yeah,
we only invited you to come speak at our church because
yeah, pretty much."
You're so ugly.
They're like, we don't want to see what's behind that beard. But I had grown it out, and our executive director came up to me and he said, "Hey, is that
Looking a little shaggy.
Is that face a little hot?" And I said, "Yeah." And I said, "Oh, okay." I said, "Yeah, but can't wait till this summer." He goes, "Oh, that's why you're going out?" I said, "Do I need to shave?" No. What?
You're
but
good, you're good.
But I was like, there was a little bit in me that was like, "All right, listen, if I'm told I need to trim down, because I get it.
Yeah.
Listen, they want their employees.
Yeah,
to
yeah.
look
You
a
want
certain-
to.
But Nicola pulled up an old stacking chairs reel when I was growing. She was like, "That was ridiculous." When I still had the beard and the mustache, and I was doing the mustache with the.
Pray for our wives, man.
3 or 4 years since it's been 3 years since we started this. We started in 2021, right?
Sure.
It must have been 4 years
After the pandemic, the right time to start a podcast.
Well, that's
You were the only one with the
everybody
idea.
started a podcast back.
But how many of them are still going? You know,
We're
Good on you guys. Good
we're
on you.
just under 100 episodes.
Stay
but
forever.
We've taken some long sabbaticals.
That's not nothing, though.
No.
But that's where we were ahead of Ninjas Are Butterflies. And then
Now they're way
That's what
ahead
everyone
of us.
says.
now they're way ahead of us.
This is basically, you guys are listening to a post show at this point. Should we wrap it up here?
Ladies and gentlemen, this has been Stacking Chairs.
With the longest episode ever.
Yeah, to date.
Longest episode ever.
Maybe.
Go ahead, do it.
Yeah, guys, thanks so much for listening. We really appreciate it. And thank you for Josiah and for
Zach?
Zach.
Nailed it. Nailed it. I'm heartbroken, David.
Zach, I'm so thankful that you were on this episode. And
That's probably the most embarrassing thing I've done in this show.
oh, you too, Josh.
What's your name again? Josh.
We recently
I
talked
know his
about
name,
We were friends
guys.
in college that
I
know
hate
each
it
other
when
for a
this happens.
It's
decade.
all right. It's
But
all right.
I mean, I forget my wife's name.
You've got a baby, man.
Rebecca.
Yeah.
So just blame it on the babies.
This happened. You guys feel me, right? This
Dad brain.
happens.
Dad
You,
brain.
you like say a name and then like immediately it jumps
You
out.
want
of
to
your
run
head.
that back?
Were we supposed to
again?
stop talking? The
No.
music.
We repeat the music and let it
Oh,
play
okay,
until.
okay,
So this music
I
is still
talked
playing
over
right
it.
now.
I
Oh,
shouted
good.
over it.
You can't
guys
hear
both
it?
joked.
Can't
Like that.
You can't hear the music?
Don't
No.
make me feel great. Don't
No,
gaslight
but
me,
I mean,
Kyle.
check us out on Stacking Chairs Pod everywhere, social media and all that jazz. Email us at stackingchairspod@wol.org. And most importantly, don't forget to stack those chairs! Did you know that happened at the end?
I knew. I've heard it many times.
You're real. Zach, I'm so sorry.
No, don't be sorry at all.
That's so embarrassing.
And there's no way to edit it
Did I
out.
just blow out
Do you
your
want to
ears?
re-record the
No, I
ending?
love it.
No, I'll
It's
probably.
fine. The
I'll
best part
probably-
about it
I'll
is
probably
we
won't let
record it
Caleb
live
edit this. I'll
every
probably
time.
edit it myself because I'm worried about it.
like a bite. It sounds like a clip.